We're in Psalm 141 this week. And
This one. If that helps.
okay.
Nope, this one's better.
Okay. Well, put that one back then.
Yeah, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Find Psalms, which one? 141?
Yeah, 141. Yep. This psalm has the title, A Psalm of David. It shows David as a man of tender conscience who asked God to deal with his own sin and weakness before addressing the wicked men who fought against him. It shows that David was even more concerned about evil inside himself than he was about evil from others. According to John Trapp, the great preacher of the early church, John Chrysostom said this psalm was used in his era as part of the evening liturgy. That was in 340 to 400 A.D. In the Greek Jews, there's the reference about the evening sacrifice in the second one. So anyhow, let's look at the first two verses here in this Psalm of David. Let me get my Bible open.
Okay, prayer for safekeeping from the wickedness. Psalm of David. Lord, I cry out to you. Make haste to me. Give ear to my voice when I cry out to you. Let my prayer be set before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice.
Thank you. And David's need was urgent. He cries out and he asks God to make haste. And of course he cries out to the true God, Yahweh, the Lord. And again, that says, when we see in a lot of Bibles, if it has Lord with a capital L and then a capital O-R-D, but it's lowercase o-r-d, it's talking about the Yahweh, the covenant name of God. And that's what David's calling out upon here. And that's the answer, as a matter of fact, to question 1, or the fill in the blank, question 1. David cries out to who?
Lord.
Lord. Asking him to make haste to help him. And as so many of David's psalms are, and we'll see either next week or later this evening, David's like always in trouble of some sort, and this is another case. And I guess this is these songs of lament, these few psalms here, a little section of psalms of lament.
It says here, loneliness could be anyone's. He is disoriented, deserted, depressed, and defeated.
Is that for this one or next one?
Yeah, that's just.
Okay. The next one's kind of the same. Except not so much defeated, I guess.
You want me to read, huh?
No. I just meant, like, it's very, very similar to 142 as far as being alone and feeling bad. But he has to give, call upon you, give ear to my voice when I call you. And we see again this device that's used to emphasize by repetition. They'll say it one way, and then he'll say it another way, pretty much saying the same thing, but it's just a way to emphasize. So, Lord, I call upon you, give ear to my voice when I call to you. And then he says, let my prayer be counted as incense before you, and lifting up my hands as the evening sacrifice. And there's those that think that this probably sets this psalm as one when David was a fugitive from Saul, when he was on the run and he couldn't go to the temple, he couldn't go, or the tabernacle rather, he couldn't go there for the evening sacrifices, and so he's kind of asking God to accept his prayer as incense and his lifting up his hands as the evening sacrifice. And we see a lot of ways that incense is considered, or it's got like a connection with prayer. In Revelation 5 verse 8, it talks about the prayers of the saints being incense. Let's look at that real quick. Revelation 5:8. This is after the scroll. The scroll is taken, and
Got me reading.
Yeah, if you want to.
Now when he had taken the scroll, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, each having a harp and a golden bowl full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints.
Thank you. Yep. And I guess Hebrews 3:15 describes praise as a sacrifice unto God. Real quick. Hebrews 13:15.
But do good and communicate, forget not, for with such a sacrifice God is well pleased. It's 16.
16? 15.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
By him, therefore, let us offer the sacrifice of praise to God continually, that is, the fruit of our lips, giving thanks to his name.
Thank you. No, first that was a translation or what you call it? What do you call those things? Translation? Maybe.
Transliteration?
No, just a different version, I guess. But it was just a different verse. But yeah, the fruit of our praise is the fruit of our lips. So David is showing this here. The smoke and the smell of incense, representation of his prayer to God, and his posture of praying, lifting up hands. We we always think of bowing our heads and they're together, but they would always lift their hands up, like raising their prayers up to God, if you will, is kind of the way. And again, think of this, that since he couldn't go to the sanctuary, he couldn't go to the tabernacle. I guess he probably couldn't get into the sanctuary anyways, but he couldn't go to the tabernacle, so this is probably gives us not a very good time frame, because it's a pretty long time frame when David was on the run from Saul, but gives us maybe an idea of why he was saying this at this point. And question 2, the psalmist prays that his prayer be set before God as incense, right? And of course, there was special incense that they had and that they always kept burning the morning and evening that they would give to God. That was part of the tabernacle and later the temple. And question 3 is David asked that the lifting up of his what? Hands. Lifting up of his hands be as the evening sacrifice. So now, if you want to read verses 3 and 4.
Okay.
That'd be awesome.
Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Do not incline my heart to any evil thing, to practice wicked works with men who work iniquity, and do not let me eat of their delicacies.
Thank you. And set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. And David didn't want his same mouth that was used as incense to be used for lies or anything evil. And
I say that verse a lot.
Yeah. And we all should, right? I mean, that's I think, of course, we need to guard our hearts, because out of the excess of the heart, the mouth speaks. But it's all good. We got to batten the hatches wherever we can. And but a guy made a point about how that he's saying this, he's praying about this while he's praying. It's like he's praying for his prayer to be good and to be right and not to be evil. And to be pleasing. He's kind of asking his sacrifice, this incense that he's giving up his prayer to be proper and be right before God. And it's goes beyond just the his, also as he's going along his daily life. I think it's maybe specific about this prayer that he's praying here, that it be proper and that he say the right things to God. And question 4, or fill in the blank 4, the psalmist requests God to set a what? Guard. Set a guard over his mouth. Same thing. And it's kind of the same idea a little bit. The idea of when Jesus gave the model prayer about lead us not into temptation. It's kind of the same thing. I hope God guard us and help us and guide us so that we're saying the right things, as well as going to the right places and avoiding places that are not good for us to go to, whether physically or just even mentally. Things we think God can guide our thoughts and guard them. He says, keep watch over the door of my lips, that is not just creaking, complaining as on rusty hinges for want of oil of joy and gladness. And again, in 142, we'll see a little bit about that, the idea of complaint and how it's kind of different than nowadays. But, you know, we always need to make sure that, I guess, what we're saying is in line with what God would have us to say. Because even though, as you know, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, but what we say reveals what's in our heart. So if we give a bad witness to people, if they see us saying stuff that we shouldn't or talking the way that we shouldn't, whether that's just the language that we use or the content of the language, things we're talking about, or we're talking about other people, or if we're running things down, even in a way, even running God down, if we're not careful what we're saying, we can be a really bad influence on other people, and make them question about, oh well, what's the point of following God if that's how it goes. We need to be careful, I guess, what we say and not speak out of turn, so to speak. Do we do number 5?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Good night. My brain's not all there. Yes. Number 5. David prays that God would keep watch over the doors of his lips. That's right. Doors of his lips. And do not incline my heart to any evil thing. And again, David knew that it was more than his lips that needed protection. His heart could be affected by some evil thing resulting in wicked works. And this is David's way of saying, lead us not into temptation, have his heart be right. The way of the heart inclines the life soon trends. Evil things desired bring forth wicked things practiced. Unless the fountain of life is kept pure, the streams of life will soon be polluted, said Spurgeon about that. And of course, David also asked there that, or said, that in the company of, do not let my heart do anything evil, to busy myself in wicked deeds, to be in the company of men who work iniquity, and let me eat none of their delicacies. And in question 6 there, David asked God not to incline his what? His heart to any evil thing. David didn't want to walk in the ways of men who work iniquity. He also didn't want to eat of their table. And we mentioned about, the Pharisees and the scribes and that would be upset about Jesus because he ate with tax collectors and sinners and that. And probably still, and I guess even in today's day, if you see somebody eating with somebody, you assume that they're getting along okay, at least. They may not be too offended by them. And back then it was even more so. It was almost like a stamp of approval. It's like you saying that you agree with that person so much so that you would actually share a meal with them. It was, of course, they also, they didn't have you get your plate of food, you get your plate of food, you get your plate of food. It was there was plates of food and everybody's eating out of the same plate. So it's a little more intimate type of thing than we have today as well. But David didn't want to be associated with them, and he didn't want the luxuries of them to be like a temptation to him as well. It says this, of course we know, theoretically or spiritually or what have you, not wanting to associate with evil people and being part of evil things. This could also have been a literal thing with David, was being invited in to eat with somebody who was wicked. And, especially if you're a man on the run like David was, the thought of, coming in for a nice meal of delicacies might seem really good, but he didn't want to do it if it was with an evil person, someone who works iniquity. And that is question 7. The psalmist prays not to eat of the what?
Delicacies.
The delicacies of men who work iniquity. And the word men here denotes men of the land, rank, and status within the community. However, these members of the aristocracy were nevertheless evildoers who practiced wicked deeds. Removal of oneself from their influence and from the enjoyment of their material benefits was the second step away from temptation. Dependency on the Lord was the first. There are sometimes many advantages in an evil, wicked way. The godly man or woman knows to avoid such advantages. My afflictions are more desirable than such prosperity, said Poole, who might have been a Puritan, I'm not sure. But a Christian living among unbelievers and sensualists in the world hath abundant reason to put up the same prayers and to use the same precautions, said Horn, who I believe is an Anglican commentator, whatever that means. But yeah, as we're going through the world, it's good to ask God to watch over us, and not just our lips but our hearts, and then to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in situations where we're with people who are going to lead us into bad spots. We pray, to God, lead us not into temptation, but then we'll get into the car with somebody who's taking us into temptation. So we want to make sure we don't, that our actions and what we do kind of matches what we're asking God to help us with, and not, putting at odds with it. Because God's going to help us, but He usually doesn't kind of hog tie us and keep us away from what we're trying to do. He'll give us in to the things we want to do sometimes, often to our detriment. So let's look at verse 5 here, the first part of verse 5, I guess.
Let the righteous strike me, it shall be a kindness. And let him rebuke me, it shall be as an excellent oil. Let my head not refuse it, for still my prayer is against the deeds of the wicked.
Thank you. And this is an interesting idea here, the fact that David rejected the delicacies of the wicked, but he embraced the correction from the righteous. Let the righteous strike me, it shall be a kindness. Let him rebuke me, it shall be an excellent oil. Let not my head refuse it. The idea of course, oil, as we'd mentioned a bit with a couple weeks ago, with Jesus at the house of Simon the Pharisee, and Jesus said, you didn't give me any oil for my head. And that was a kind of a thing they would do, is refreshing, and it would help them, I don't know, feel good, I guess. I don't know, smell better, I guess. It'd be some kind of perfumed oil. But if you ever got olive oil on you, it just gets everywhere. But
I think back then, oily hair was better than dry hair.
Probably, yeah.
Showed prestige, maybe, or wealth.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's sort of like he's asking to, if I'm doing something wrong, let me know, correct me. So.
Yeah, and it's we see this kind of idea also in the Proverbs about how a wise man will accept instruction, he'll accept rebuke, and he'll accept somebody telling him, coming to him and saying, hey, that's not right. But a fool will rebel against that, and they'll get mad and they'll get upset, and to the point even sometimes it'll say don't even try to correct a fool in his error, because you're just wasting your time. He's going to get mad at you. He's not going to listen to you.
They think we're always right, no matter what you say.
Yeah.
Thing is, you have to learn how to say things in the right way if you're trying to correct somebody, instead of bringing up all their bad faults.
Yeah, there's definitely right ways and wrong ways to do it, and
Go through the back door.
Go through all the Proverbs in that, a soft answer turns away wrath, previous words stir up anger, and that's important as well. But also, I think Jesus said, don't cast your pearls before swine, and it's kind of what we see with the parable last Sunday about how that sometimes stuff just doesn't land, and you can't tell them. You can give them the opportunities, but they don't accept it. But David here is showing wisdom in the fact that he is eager. I don't know if eager is the right word, but he's willing definitely willing to be corrected if he's doing something wrong. And I think that comes from a place, and we see this we saw it, well, it'll be a few weeks ago now, I think, but the idea in the psalm about, asking God to look at me, search me out. There it is in 139. Search me, O God, and know my thoughts. Try me and know my thoughts. See if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. In that psalm, David's talking. Pretty sure that was David. Is asking God to search him and correct him. And now he's saying, if the righteous would do that, that's good. And so, of course, that's one of the functions of the Bible as well, is we can go to it and read it, and then we can see in it like what we're doing wrong and why we need to correct, and we need to not reject it, not reject the Bible when it says something because it means that we have to do something different than what we're already doing. In the same way here, David is willing to be corrected by a righteous man. And he's kind of, in a way, it's, interesting. He says, let the righteous strike me, it'll be a kindness, and let him rebuke me, it'll be an excellent oil. Let my head not refuse it. It's almost like he's also asking God to enable him to receive correction and rebuke when it's offered properly and when it's for his betterment. And question 8, David welcomes the righteous to what? Strike him, calling it a kindness. And again, that's it's a lot of times, like, even if you ask for any sort of criticism, it's like, well, not too stern. But David's here, smack me. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. This movie you guys probably haven't seen.
You listen to Nathan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Just shut him off right there. Don't want to hear it. Stop playing. No.
Well, it's kind of the wisdom that God gave Nathan to come in first with a little story.
Yeah,
and then David's all like fuming mad. And then Nathan came in and smacked him on the head. That man's you. You're the one who did this. I always tell this to Brittany, there's a movie we've watched, and a lady in it says, sometimes you got to go upside the head. It's the only way.
Give him a Gibbs.
Yeah, and that's what David's saying. Basically, it's like you got to go upside the head sometimes, and it's for your betterment. And F.B. Meyer here says, we may want a fresh anointing, yet miss it because it comes as correction from a righteous man or woman. So we need to be open, humble to the fact that we're not perfect, and that we have flaws, and we need help sometimes to recognize when we're doing something that's wrong, and somebody who can come to you and get you back from the wrong path to the right path. That's a really great friend to have, and it's part of the idea of the church. The local church is a body of believers that help each other make sure we're on the right track and stay on the right track. And of course, it's all about doing that in love, and it's doing it in kindness, and it's helping, not trying to tear down or criticize, but it's just being helpful and helping somebody. Anyway, I was going to make some comment about my inability to work on my car, but if I was doing something on my car, somebody had to come along and probably say, no, don't be doing that. That's a bad idea. You're going to mess it up. And that's good. You don't want to mess it up and then too far down the road to correct it. So let's look at 6 and 7 here.
Their judges are overthrown by the sides of the cliff, and they hear my words, for they are sweet. Our bones are scattered at the mouth of the grave, as when one plows and breaks up the earth. Period.
Okay. Very good. And some of these are some hard things to figure out.
I have a question.
They say they're like not sure that it could be an idiom or something that we're just not quite familiar with what it means. But you had a question?
Yeah. Okay, because it says their judges. Who is there?
That's a good question.
Who is there? I mean, what?
Yeah, it's a good question because he's just talking about the righteous,
Right.
and yet
Their judges are overthrown by the sides of the cliff.
when they hear, or then they hear my words, for they are pleasant. Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah. See, in this one here,
Where's that? Oh,
yeah, mine says here that the leaders of the wicked would be punished by being thrown over a cliff is at the heart of David's prayer. Is the thought there, I guess. That the there would be the wicked, and their judges are thrown over the cliff.
Judges.
Yeah, and I know that,
Did you say anything? No.
yeah.
Yeah, leaves out everything out and skips that verse.
Yeah, they do that sometimes.
It explains verse 5 and then it explains verse 8. It skips everything.
Yeah. It's amazing how you'll do that. You'll like be reading and like something will kind of puzzle you. You look down at the comments and it's like, oh, nothing on that. They kind of chickened out. They didn't want to say they didn't know, so they just skipped it. But it says the meaning of their judges are overthrown by the side of the cliff is difficult to understand from the original Hebrew. George Horne said of Psalm 141:6 of this verse, as it stands in our translation, we know not what can be made. So he's just saying, I don't know. So,
Bill didn't tell me.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It must be
Now-
the wicked. I'll settle for that.
it says, perhaps David meant King Saul, his chief enemy, yet would not name him out of a desire to avoid attacking God's chosen king. I would kind of, doubt that. It seemed like that David had such deference for Saul that even when he cut the little tassel off his robe in the cave, that David was really upset about that. It affected him. So I don't know. I kind of have a hard time thinking that David would want to wish that or pray that on Saul because he was still God's anointed. And kind of his father-in-law and also his best friend's dad. All this stuff, And we see all through his life, David was like that. Even after Saul was dead and somebody came and told him, he's like, kill that man.
Yeah.
Thought he was going to get a reward for telling me that Saul's dead. The psalmist prays they may die a cruel death being thrown down the cliff. Luke 4:29, it keeps mentioning that. Let me check that real quick. I'm trying to think what that would have been. Luke 4:29.
Okay, I got a question. Here it is. I just Googled it. Psalms 141:6. Praise their judges, reference to the leaders or rulers of David's enemies.
Read that again.
Yeah, that could be.
The phrase their judges, reference to the leaders or rulers of David's enemies.
Oh, okay.
So it'd still be per se wicked.
Reference to those.
Yeah, the leaders of the enemy. And leaders like kings and that were generally judges as well. They'd be like the final arbiter of things. And this Luke 4:29 is talking about when in Nazareth they wanted to throw Jesus off a cliff. His people in his hometown. Yeah.
Throw him off the cliff.
Yeah, that was what they were trying to do there. So it's not an example of that happening, just the fact that somebody was being thrown off a cliff. It's kind of a bum lead, as they say.
You can't trust Google.
They hear my words, for they are sweet. And so they did. The death of Saul made all the best of the nation look to the son of Jesse as the Lord's anointed. His words became sweet to them. Well, Spurgeon seems to go with this idea that it's Saul that he's talking about there, maybe. Although that's still kind of an odd thing because they didn't really flock to David. Most of the kingdom went to one of Saul's sons, and then just Judah anointed David as king, and he was king for a number of years with like a divided kingdom. And then they had the whole thing with old what's his name, and he got killed by whatever his name is, Joab, and it was a whole big deal. Speaking of David's wife that was Saul's daughter. He got him back. Can't think of the guy's name. Anyhow, Joab was David's guy, and he ended up killing this other guy who was the head of Saul's army, who became basically running this guy's kingdom. And he kind of made a play for the throne himself a little bit, you could say. Anywho, and he got called on it, and the guy got mad and said, fine, I'll just go and talk to David then. And so he came to David and said, yeah, I'll work it out for you. Anywho, disgruntled employees. It's always the same. And as when one plows and breaks up the earth, so shall their bones be scattered at the mouth of Sheol. There's another phrase difficult to understand from the original. Perhaps David used a word picture to describe how ruined he felt and his righteous companions were at the deeds of the wicked. Those so ruined could only cry out to God for help. And, there's like a special deal about like your bones being scattered at the instead of being buried properly. And that was a big deal. And sometimes judgments that God would give, it's like, your bones are going to be like left out for the dogs or the ravens or whatever, the birds. And that was like especially like bad fate. It was like bad enough to die, but then when they're going to get buried, it's even worse. I don't know what all the deal with that is, but
My Bible says grave instead of Sheol.
yeah, Sheol's like place of the dead, the grave, and that. The point of the figure lies in the resemblance of the bones strewn at the mouth of Sheol to broken clods turned up by a plow. Sheol seems here to waver between the meaning of the unseen world of the souls and the grave, said McLaren. And to the Jews, such a spectacle must have been very dreadful, as the want of burial was esteemed one of the greatest calamities that could befall them. Again, it's bad enough to die, but to not be buried properly was like beyond the pale.
Scandalous.
Yeah, pretty much. It was like, it's horrible. And even almost not to be buried like at your home place was pretty bad too. It's like to be buried like far away from where you were even. As that unnamed prophet that went up to confront Joab and was told not to eat or drink anything and then go a different way, and he started leaving, and then this other prophet came and said, hey, why don't you come to my house and have something to eat? And he said, I can't. God told me not to. And he goes, no, God told me you can. And then when they started to eat, then the guy started prophesying, the old guy, saying, oh, you shouldn't eat this. You're going to die now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, thanks a lot.
Jean just read this the other night.
Thanks for nothing. And so then he was going home then, like he saddled up his donkey, he was heading home, and a bear comes out, kills him. Or was it a bear or was it a lion?
It was a bear.
Was it a bear? Okay. And the bear just sits there, the donkey just sits there, and the dead body just sits there until people told the prophet about it, and he went and got him and buried him.
He should have felt bad.
You would think so, yeah.
It was his fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He lied to him.
Yes, but he disobeyed. God told him not to.
Yeah, the prophet
and he
disobeyed.
believed the man, but not. He should
Yeah.
have believed
But did
God.
God send him, the prophet, there to tell him to?
No, I think it says
Bury
pretty much
him?
like the prophet just
No.
lied.
He lied
And told him.
I mean, he was told by God, don't eat or drink
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah,
He
for whatever
did anyway.
reason.
Yeah.
But I didn't know whether God had told the prophet to go to him and tell him that.
No, I don't think so. I think it
I have to go back
actually
and read that again.
says something about that he did that. Yeah, not good. Probably being
Do you remember where you was at when you read that?
First Kings or something.
It's First Kings because
Yeah.
my son and I, we read through the Bible every
Okay.
year.
Okay.
And he likes that story, and he likes Goliath and Samson. Those are his favorites. He gets real excited when we get to those.
I heard a guy say, he said like sweetness from the eater or honey from the eater or something like that. And it took me a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, that's Samson. That was his big riddle.
Yeah.
Was that Daniel or not? Or
No, that was
No, it's
Samson.
Samson.
He
Samson, okay.
The
killed a lion and he came
and
back
then
later.
the
and-
honeycomb was
yeah.
inside the lions.
Right.
Yeah.
And so this is his big riddle that he was using.
Yeah.
I don't think
But
Samson
it
was
was
all
out
that
his dad
clever.
knowing.
Why did he
Yeah.
keep trusting her?
I know, wasn't he stupid?
Yeah, I don't.
Golly.
It didn't seem like Samson was very bright. I don't know.
He was
But he
strong.
was just.
I
He
mean,
was strong and he was
tall,
very.
dark, handsome, and strong.
He
girls.
did whatever he wanted to do basically. Like he, I
How
think
many
they.
times?
What was it?
Every time.
I think that wasn't even Delilah. That was a different lady that he was like courting or something like that. And then she told those guys, and they came up, and instead of like paying off his debt, I don't know, maybe he did. I think he went and like killed a bunch of guys, took their clothes, paid off his debt with that, and then he tied like a torch to some foxes, and they ran through the fields and lit everything on fire.
It's a hoot.
Samson's pretty wild character. But anywho,
Picking beans and canning tomatoes.
let's look now at 8, 9, and 10.
But my eyes are upon you, O God, the Lord. If you, in you I take refuge, do not leave my soul destitute. Keep me from the snares they have laid in for me, and from the traps of the workers of iniquity. Let the wicked fall into their own nets while I escape safely.
Thank you. Even in such terrible condition, described in the previous lines, David deliberately set his eyes upon the Lord, because God himself was his refuge. David prayed, do not leave my soul destitute. Without God's protection, he was at the mercy of his wicked enemies. And in all times, in all places, on all occasions, I will cleave unto the Lord, and I will put my whole confidence in him. Says Clark about, but my eyes are upon you. Like, but there is a pretty big word encompassing all this stuff, bad stuff that was like planned for him and people had in mind for him. Despite all of that, he's going to keep his eyes on God the entire time.
His eyes.
And it makes a point here about these traps that they had laid and the snares of the evildoer, and about how that the thought was, I guess, that there were those who were basically bad-mouthing David to Saul, as if, Saul's bad enough with his paranoia and everything else. But in 1 Samuel 26:19, David said to Saul, this is after in the cave of En-Gedi when he cut the thing off, I believe. Maybe. Or it could be when he snuck into his camp and took his spear and his water thing, I'm not sure. But it says, if the Lord has stirred you up against me, let him accept an offering. But if it is the children of men, may they be cursed before the Lord, for they have driven me out this day from sharing in the inheritance of the Lord, saying, go serve other gods. So this shows that David knew that many others lied about him to Saul, hoping to slay him with their slander. It also shows that when David was a fugitive, his enemies hoped to entice him to idolatry, saying, go serve other gods. David would not, in the Lord alone, he took refuge. So, number 9 there, question 9. David declared that his what? Eyes are upon God as his refuge. Keep me from the snares they have laid for me. It says the enemy of David's were determined to destroy him, so they set many snares, traps, and nets for him. And of course, we know that Saul was good at trying to set traps and that, or thought he was. His whole deal with giving him his younger daughter to David to be married was like, oh, she'll be a trap to him. She'll be a snare, and I'll get him to go and kill a bunch of Philistines to win her hand. And then David killed twice as many, and of course that marriage didn't work out very well. But nevertheless, that was like an idea of Saul's to trap David. And then before David escaped to the caves of Adullam, which we'll look at a little bit maybe next week in 142, that Saul had invited David like to a meal, like to a big, like one of the feasts or something. Come to the meal, and then I think Jonathan had warned David. It's like, maybe you better stay away. I think Dad wants to kill you. And it's like, well, go find out for me then. So he came to the meal and said, oh, yeah, he was sick or something, or he had to go with his folks. And then Saul's like, all right, we'll see. And the next time then Saul like blew up and got really mad. I think he tried to kill Jonathan that time. But anyhow, and so Jonathan came and told David, it's like, yeah, you better get out of here. But that was also like a trap for David. It wasn't. It was supposed to be a hidden, secret thing that he'd have him there, and then he'd kill him. But it's hard to keep out of snares which we cannot see, and to escape snares which you cannot discover. Well, might the much hunted psalmist cry, keep me. The fact that he's relying on God to keep him from these traps, these things that David has no idea of, no idea where they're at or why they're set, but God knows, and God can keep him from those things. And then, of course, the bit of an imprecatory type prayer here, that let the wicked fall into their own nets while I pass by safely. Basically, it's kind of if they hadn't tried to set these traps for David and do these things against David, then maybe they would have been okay. But since they're trying to do that, then let them, fall victim to their own plots. And it's a lot like Haman in the story of Esther, where he had built this, big thing to hang Mordecai on. He ended up being hung on that himself, and his sons, I believe, as well. But that's number 10. It is the psalmist prayed that the wicked fall into their own nets. And this prayer was answered. From the sequel of history, we find that the hope and assurance here expressed by the psalmist were not vain. He escaped all the snares that were laid on him on every side. Again, that's horn. I don't know why I think Greg Horn. I think I worked with a guy named Greg Horn. But anyhow. But yeah, God saw him through, and again, another Psalm of David that starts with a lot of problems in that, and basically David the whole way through being steadfast, keeping with God and praying to God, wanting God to keep him pure and keep him right, and also to keep him from harm and to turn it back on his enemies. So anyhow, we'll look at 142 next week.